Never seen that before. Okay, so I need to do that. So how do I? Okay, I gotta remember how to do this. Okay, there it is. I have to set the chat moderation every time, and I always forget how to do it. Mm, okay. Gosh, I got a major knot in my hair. Well, hello and welcome everyone. Like I know you guys that are on the replay are having to see this at the beginning every single time. So per usual, just go ahead and skip forward. It starts at approximately 3 to 5 minutes in, so you guys should be able to skip forward probably at the 4 minute mark, and we will have already started. So just letting you guys know that. I'm going to just give it a few more minutes to go completely live, and then I will start speaking into what we are going to discuss today. So hello and welcome everyone. Just giving this an opportunity, as I just mentioned, to go live. It takes it about 3 minutes to get live. And then we're going to have, I believe it's a really powerful and exciting discussion today. And I decided to do this live today because of a personal experience that's happening right now in my life, and also some things that have come back around for me that I basically heard another creator mention, and it only really landed for me, but it really, really brought me back into a deeper space of self-reflection, and I wanted to share that with you guys. Because, you know, one of the things we're going to discuss here today is about epigenetics. That's something I'm going to touch on. I'm not going to go like super deep into epigenetics. I do feel like I'm going to do that possibly in the next episode because of the personal experience. I wanted to share more in that because of what gets to be taken from that. Personal experience is one of the most powerful things that we can share with one another. Our personal stories are lived unlike anyone else's. And so when we're teaching others, when we're supporting others, when we're guiding others, what we are exchanging with others is what we've learned from our lived life. Okay. So I can tell you, I can sit here and read a book to you guys and give you that knowledge, but that's not going to help you as much as me being able to share how that knowledge has worked itself in my life. Not saying that knowledge doesn't support, it's a tool in the tool belt. But when you listen to someone else's story and you're really listening to learn, you're listening from a different parameter of self-awareness. You're listening to take in the information so that you too can actually experience it as something that you apply in your own reality. You know, for the longest time, I would read and take in all types of knowledge and information, and things weren't changing. And that's also something I'm going to talk about today because I'm in the position of an identity shift, and I've been talking about this for the last few episodes. And the reason why this is so important is because an identity shift is, in some ways it's instant, but in a majority of ways it's not. It's happening in layers. And when what tends to keep us stuck is that we end up continuously reacting to what's happening in our reality. And until we shift internally to a degree where we're no longer emotionally dependent upon seeing our reality change, then our reality remains the same. And this is where I found myself looping, is that I'm doing the work, I'm putting all the effort in, I'm applying what I'm supposed to be applying, and then all of a sudden chaos ensues. Like shit just starts flying off the handle and going wrong. And I've gone through the process of being able to approach that with a lot more acceptance. But on days like today, I just had a moment where I just got pissed off. And I walked outside and I screamed and I just started punching the shit out of a chair. I was so angry because what my old reality wants from me is that right there. It's an entity. And that entity is seeking for me to have an emotional reaction to what I say I no longer desire. And that's why the title of this is Altering Perception Alters Projection. It's my reality can't fully turn and do a complete 180 if I am not willing to see it differently, and if I am not willing to carry a different emotional charge towards the reality that I'm choosing to step away from. Now, you guys, what I'm sharing here isn't new, and I know everyone is talking about this stuff right now. I'm sharing it from my personal experience, and I'm sharing it from a place of where I've heard these same things mentioned over and over and over and over again for the last 6 years. And I'm still experiencing some hangups. I'm still experiencing some things that aren't fully transitioning. And so I'm hoping that by what I share with you guys here, it's not brand new information, but it's what I've learned from the information that I have actually chosen to apply. So one of the biggest hangups for me is, you guys have heard me talk about my relationship to my soul dog, my fur baby. And a lot of people might think that this sounds stupid or ridiculous, and that's fine. You can hold that perception if you'd like. But the truth is that my relationship to him is no different than my relationship to anyone. It's no different than a relationship with a person, because a relationship is based on an exchange of thoughts and beliefs and emotions. And when I'm choosing to shift out of an identity, that identity is basically it's forecasting on what I'm most attached to, what I give my attention to the most, what I choose to observe the most. And our attention, so intention is exceptionally important, but attention is even more so. Our attention, our awareness, whatever we give our attention to is what we are choosing to create from within. So today, as I'm going through this process and I'm applying all these things that I've shared here around the mind movies and the meditation and the epigenetic application, like I'm going through all of these different processes, and I'm still witnessing this resistance coming from my reality. I'm still resisting, I'm still experiencing this one situation that will not let go. And if I look back at it, this situation has been in motion year in and year out for about 5 years now, very consistently. I literally expect it. I expect it to happen. And because I expect it to happen, it's interesting. I expect it to happen, but when it does happen, I still have a reaction to it. Like, I'm pretty sure I know it's going to happen, but my reaction to it is not always, but I still get frustrated. And so one thing that as I'm sitting here this morning, I'm going through those emotions and I'm feeling that anger, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? Like, why is this still coming up? And I've had some really beautiful breakthroughs. I've had some really beautiful glimmers that are abundant, and they're showing me that things are shifting. I am literally seeing where space is being made, where this new identity is being embodied. I am approaching things much different than I used to. But what I've realized Bruiser represents for me, and this would be the same if you're in a relationship, it can be a partnership, a friendship, a coworker, a parent. He is the physical container in which I have placed so much value. We'd see this a lot in relationships, right? Your significant other or your special person, the person that you desire, or the person you think of the most, or the person you really are drawn to, or maybe you're in a relationship with. what I do is I see that person or that thing as a container in which all of my emotions and my thoughts and my desires are basically poured into. And what I am is I am the image, I am the identity that's basically using this container to attach my self-worth to. And I have attached so much need to Bruiser because of the role he's played in my life. He is my soul dog. I don't have children, but he was there for me at my lowest point in time. When I was still homeless, you know, when I was still on drugs, when I was in a very abusive relationship, Bruiser crossed my path at the exact moment that I intended him to, because I was so desperately seeking love. And I got what I wished for. I got the object of my desire. But what comes with that is so much more. And there's a level of self-accountability and self-responsibility that I just never learned. And as I'm going through the process of learning it, what I've realized is the time that he and I crossed paths and the time that we intersected, there was a lot of trauma. And during that time frame, our entire relationship, our entire connection was built on that trauma. And what's really interesting about that is it only takes one traumatic event for your whole paradigm to shift. That's all it takes. So we can go through the process of incorporating new subconscious ways of thinking. We can go through the process of reaffirming and assigning a new belief system. But all it takes is one event to completely shift the parameters, to completely shift the dynamic. So think about that. That traumatic event shows us the power that emotions have on our experience. And that's why this anger has been coming forward for me in relation to Bruiser. There is something about this situation that I am entangled with, and no matter how much work, no matter how much effort I put in, every time it comes up, I'm always faced with this resistance. And if I'm being honest about the emotions that are there, I could say that there's love there, but there's really not. There is control. There's needing to control what he's doing. There's needing to make sure that he does something in a certain way so that I feel like I'm a good person, so that I feel like I've done a good job. There's a lot of deeply embedded emotional trauma, mental trauma, physical trauma. And because emotions are the glue that keep us stuck, if I look back over the last few years of my relationship with him, hell, my relationships in general, there's a lot of anger there. There's a lot of anger. There's a lot of self-shame. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of need to be seen as doing things right. And so as I'm learning to shift out of this, I'm noticing that there's always things are gonna go wrong before they go right. And that's what's happening right now. All of my clients left my field. I ended up with a new side hustle, but even that has taken a little bit of a hit. As I'm going through the process of creating a new program and creating a new course, and I'm pouring all my time and my energy into that, other parts of my life are not getting the same amount of attention. So it seems like I have no money. It seems like I have no clients. It seems like I have this incredible resistance with Bruiser and with my family, because I've been bumping heads with my family. So it just seems like, and I'm also getting hit with letters about my student debt and payments needing to be made. So there's all kinds of stuff that's coming up. And there's one of two ways I can look at this. The chaos can either show me that I'm doing something wrong, or it can show me that I'm doing something right. And so what I realized from that anger this morning is that, man, it just wants to keep me here. That's why this chaos is coming forward. And I have to respond to this differently. And I know this is something I've known for a long time, you guys. I've known that I should respond differently. But in that moment where I really want that outcome to be a certain way, I don't always respond in the way that I know I should. And so because of this, where I'm at right now is recognizing and re-recognizing that I've got to be completely unbothered by what happens. And in terms of the epigenetics, so I mentioned the trauma. our epigenetics state that we're not our genes. And I want to give you guys an example here of how this is also my, like, being back around my family, being back in my family home, how all of this has an effect on the way that my identity operates and how my identity is being embodied. So, and I'm sure if you guys have ever gone back to visit your family, depending on the relationship with your parents, you've probably had an experience in your childhood home or an experience when you interact with your parents. So being back in my childhood home, there's a lot of things that are basically stored in this environment. And the frequency, when I came back home, even though I've made a lot of progress, I've also gone back into habits that I wasn't embodying even when I was homeless and on the streets and on drugs. So this means I've actually had some behavioral patterns that have come back up that were not either, I don't want to say they weren't present, but I wasn't acting from them as I am now. So being around my parents, being in this family home, interacting with the most common form of my attention, which is Bruiser, there's a pattern there. And there's a pattern of inherited rejection, self-blame, and aggression. Now, that pattern is also one that is carried, I see it most commonly in my mom. Epigenetics, trauma, in terms of trauma, or even cancer, let's say cancer. There was a study that was done, and there was, they did a study on adopted children. And they did this one case study where this child was adopted into a family that had, cancer that, quote unquote, we say runs through the family. It was very predominant in this family line. And the child that came into that family did not have their family, what they knew of the family, what they knew of the family line. This child did not have any such experiences with their family line. There was no cancer in the family line. They couldn't connect cancer to the child. And this child came into this family line and ended up with cancer. So what that shows us is that the more that we are immersed in specific behavioral patterns, the more that we are immersed in very specific frequencies or currencies of emotion, we begin to become that which we most associate with. And so cancer is not a disease, it's a symptom. And it's a symptom of what we choose to inherently believe and inherently act on. And emotions are basically the glue, that encase these thought forms. And if I am constantly thinking, or if I am surrounded by those that constantly think that something's wrong, then I am going to be entangled in this experience. Even if I don't always interact with that person, or I don't always exchange with that person, I am still in an environment where that is predominant. And so either I'm going to vastly become that which I have surrounded myself with, or I have to work twice as hard to rise above that frequency and place myself on a platform that can observe what's happening, but not be in any way associated with it. This is what I believe being in the world, but not being of it, actually means. With that being said, in terms of thoughts and emotions, thoughts are not created. They are experienced. So what I have noticed about right now is that as I'm choosing to shift identities, the most common and most predominant way of thinking that consistently shows up is from that old identity. And that old identity, basically what that is it's an entity. And that entity is wanting to pull me back and keep me in the familiarity and in the comfort zone of the old identity. And this identity is layered. It's not going to break down and dismantle all at once. And so anger is one of the most powerful and predominant emotions of my lifetime. It is the one emotion that I am most reactive to. Before sadness, before grief, anger is the one that always pulls me in. And so what I've realized is that as my subconscious is taking in these new beliefs, it's not just repetitive thoughts, it's repetitive feelings. So anytime I'm finding myself really wanting to control or fix what's happening in my environment, there's a sensation that starts to appear in my body. And it's almost like anxiety. It's this, I need to make sure I get this right. I need to make sure I correct this, or else something bad is going to happen. And also something that I want to mention here, you guys. As I started improving my relationship with my mom, I started sharing more with my mom. And now I understand why people say you shouldn't share who you are with those that are not in alignment. It's not that my mom is behind me or below me. I shouldn't say that's not in alignment. Sharing yourself should be a sacred act. Sharing my thoughts, sharing my feelings, sharing my beliefs with someone is a sacred act. It's very personal. It's personal to me. It's personal to my identity. So one of the things that I thought I was supposed to do as I started working on healing the relationship with my mom and my dad was to just be open with them and tell them everything. That was a mistake. Not because they don't love me and not because I don't love them, but I've noticed that every time I openly share a concern or a worry, it comes back to me times 100. And all I have to do is say it once, and it will be consistently looped and replayed back to me through my mom again and again and again. Anytime a situation with Bruiser comes up now, my mom is right there in the background. Like I might be saying something, but she's also saying something. She's talking with me and over me, and she's impressing on that exchange. She's impressing her doubt. She's impressing her worry. She's impressing how wrong everything is. And so as soon as I let her in, as soon as I invited my mom into this experience, and I vulnerably shared my worries and my concerns with her, now she's a part of it. And now she has decided that something is wrong. And now she is also imprinting into that field. So now there's a secondary force. It's not just me and my worry and my concern. Now it's my mom. And now there's two very similar belief patterns and behavioral patterns that are entangled in this identity. And so now I'm not only did I inherit that from my family, not only are my genes matching on a physical level how that exists in my family line. I'm literally having the physical symptoms that my mom is having. I will wake up and literally no reason, no account for it. I will have pain, back pain, sciatic pain. And as soon as I have a conversation with my mom, she's having the exact same experience. So this is how on a metaphysical level, epigenetics, belief, you're taking subconscious patterns of belief, subconscious patterns of emotions, and they sync up. And so it's as scary as it is for me right now, as I'm seeing everything basically leave my reality, it's also exceptionally important. Those clients had to leave. The relationship with my parents is completing itself, but I'm learning how to complete it with acceptance and without needing to involve them in everything. In order for me to embody this new identity, I have to let everyone go, and I have to let everything go. That I cannot include people, and I cannot include the same situations in the same way if I want to experience my life differently. The old frequency is going to bring this chaos forward, because as soon as you start showing that you're willing to let things go that you once gave your time, energy, and attention to, it's going to, that entity needs attention. It's had your attention. That frequency has become adept at having your time, your energy, your attention. So therefore, it's going to do everything it can to keep your attention active. And all it requires is one moment of emotional reactivity to re-entangle you back into that frequency. This is why being unbothered or detached is so important. It doesn't mean that you avoid. It doesn't mean that you ignore. It just means that you observe it from like an eagle's eye view. Imagine someone coming into your reality right now. Think about the things that you're most worried about. Think about the things that keep you up at night or create a little anxiety in your system. if someone else were to come into your reality, do you think that they would feel that way about that thing? Or do you think they would probably be like, I don't see the big deal? So this is the way I'm approaching it. If someone were to come into my reality, or were focusing on my desired reality, they wouldn't have the concerns that I have. So now I'm going to act like someone that's new to this, that isn't attached to these things, that isn't chasing after the desire, that isn't chasing after getting it right. Because I don't want to be stuck in the same familiarity and the same comfort zone of reactivity. And, anger for me is like a drug. I don't know about you guys, but when anger hits me, it makes me really miss my days of boxing. I can tell you that, in MMA. I only did that for a short amount of time, but I cannot wait to step back into that, because it was the most powerful outlet of being able to move my body and release the emotional stagnancy. And so, you guys, if you don't do it already, I highly recommend, if you feel an emotional trigger coming out, go outside or go in a room, scream, punch something, yell, get the words out, get the thoughts out, let the emotion move through. It's only going to last for about 90 seconds anyways. But if you don't, if you hold it in, if you push it down, it's just going to come out later on anyways. And I've also noticed, speaking of anger, I notice I get pissed off. I notice I have the urgency or the compulsion. Anger is a compulsion, right? I notice it comes up more frequently the closer I am to a shift. So I'm curious if anyone else has that experience, but for me, whenever I'm getting close to a shift, those reactive emotions are more predominant. So the biggest message that I want to share here with you guys is that it's very interesting. I thought attracting more money, I thought figuring out my purpose, I thought attracting closer relationships, closer friendships, closer brothers and sisters into my life. I thought that those were what was going to challenge me the most. And as I've gone through this process, I've realized that none of those were really where basically the only struggle that was there was a lack of self-confidence, like a lack of faith, a lack of trust in myself. And Bruiser is basically a vessel. He's basically a structure in the 3D that carries every ounce of seeking love. And as I've begun to come into a greater relationship with myself, and as I've begun to start loving myself more, I realized what I was always seeking was God's love. I was always seeking what I thought was missing or what I thought I didn't have. And it's very easy to take that person or that animal or that thing in our reality that we feel a lot of emotions towards, that we feel a lot of love, appreciation, gratitude towards. It's really easy to place our attention on someone or something else and focus our desires there. At least I know it is for me. It's so much easier. It's like as soon as I know that I need to slow down and drop in and shift the way that I'm moving, I always turn towards him. He has become my sun. He has become the center of my universe, because so much of my emotions, so much of my thoughts has always gone towards him. And for years and for years and for years, I have placed so much necessity on him being taken care of. And I can see this for others that happens in the relationship with a partner. I work with those that are, I do have I know I said all my clients moved out, but I do have clients right now. Just a good portion of them moved out. But I'm working with clients right now that are choosing to break free from addiction. And it's very interesting, even though I am no longer taking the drugs, the substance isn't the same. The substance changed, but the patterns are the same. I may not be a drug addict, but I'm still acting from addictive behaviors. And those addictive behaviors, that entity needs me to react. My old identity needs it needs that. It's the sustenance, it's the substance of its existence, is that reactivity. So when I'm reacting, it's getting fed, it's getting nourished, it's getting what it wants. It feels in control, it feels powerful. And I believe that the spiritual community, they probably call these archons, but it's an entity. It's basically a frequential entity, and it's comprised of those thoughts and those emotions that have been most predominantly patterned. And once I start to no longer feed the impulse, I'm no longer feeding the habit. But we also know that that's not always going to happen because it's subconsciously led. So one thing that I'm working with right now is living in this environment that I've been in as a child. And it's this was also something that was very interesting. I'm going to drop in for you guys. As I'm working on shifting the capacity at which I receive money and rescaling everything, I was sitting there and I was reviewing just how my experience has been with money. And I'm focusing now on, multimillionaire energy, or, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and receiving, at a larger capacity. And as I was looking back over the last few years of my life, I was like, man, I've received hundreds of thousands of dollars. I have received a lot of money. It blew my mind, honestly. It's very interesting. I've never actually looked at it in that way. I was like, dude, I've received hundreds of thousands of dollars from clients. Just at the beginning of this year, I had a deposit for $15,000. That means not only have I always received money in large amounts, I wasn't looking at it from that perspective. I was looking at it as I need to receive more frequently in larger amounts, as if I had not already done it. And so as I'm looking back, I'm like, man, I've been surrounded by millions of dollars. I've received hundreds of thousands, and I've also interacted with others who have received millions. I have literally learned from millionaires and multimillionaires. I have had those as my mentors. Billionaires, actually, at least one billionaire. And so I have been surrounded by that. And that just made me laugh, because how often is it that I'm actually looking at the fact, the truth, the reality that I already have it. Now, I know we say this, but in order for my identity, in order for my nervous system to actually believe that I can receive $1 million, I have to already acknowledge that I have it, right? As Neville Goddard says, we're living from the end. We're imagining it as if it's already happened. So it happened yesterday. It's not happening tomorrow. And as I sat down to review this, as I'm building these new mind movies, as I'm creating my identity is already created, as I'm anchoring in my identity, and I'm looking at that, I realized how freaking easy it was to see that I'm already a millionaire. Like, it's already there. It's in my field. And the field carries every experience of every millionaire that's ever lived, including you, including me. And having access to that money isn't just that amount coming to us in a singular amount. It's the ability and the willingness to see that you've already touched that amount in your lifetime. You've already accessed a millionaire status. You've touched $1 million. And so that's why I say, like, that part, when I looked at it in that way, I realized how easy it was. Just like I realized how easy it was to love myself and accept myself. And one of the most predominant beliefs that I have inherited from my mom. This is something I hear all the time. My dad will go in a room, he'll turn on the light, he'll walk out, he'll leave the light on. And my mom will come after him complaining, Eddie, you know you're supposed to turn the lights off. We don't leave the lights on. You're wasting electricity. And then she'll explain how his mom, my grandmother, always left the lights on. But my mom's mom always had them off. You have a mindset of scarcity and poverty, and then you have a mindset of just comfort, living in comfort, not having an excess amount per the belief system, but living in comfort, not worrying about a lack of water, a lack of electricity, a lack of food. But that's my environment. It doesn't mean my environment controls me. It means that my environment reflects me. And if I want to experience a different reality, I have to start seeing a different environment instead of believing that the environment that I am in is the environment, is the only environment that I exist in. So if I look around and I'm affected by the beliefs of my mom, if I hear her talking and I feel triggered, or I want to control, or I want to correct, that's also me living in a state of lack. Like, she lacks the correct information and I need to correct her. So as I'm going through this, and I can't tell you, again, when I was homeless and I was living on the streets, it was much easier for me than it is being back home with my parents. Being back home with my parents has challenged me more than any other time in my life. I would take being homeless again than living on the streets with my parents. I love them dearly. I really do. It's just a totally different level of being challenged. Well, exactly. And that's the concept of abundance, is seeing abundance everywhere. But it's also not like, if we just say abundant, more abundant than paper money, I would actually say I would invite in a reframe, because paper money is a part of abundance, which means that something that is labeled as more abundant than that is actually pushing paper money to the side, or money, and saying that other things can be more abundant than that, which actually then limits your access to money, or at least it's a limiting perspective. I know what you mean, but it's a limiting perspective if we choose to somehow see something as being more than. So for me, the way I like to bring everything in is that it's all a byproduct of my ability to receive. And when I am available to receive, not only do I receive more money, but I receive more people. I receive more, I can receive more emotions. I can hold more emotions. I can hold a greater capacity of self-awareness. I can hold a higher level of consciousness. And a higher level of consciousness is just a deeper reflection into myself. So I also, one thing I do want to mention here, taking it back to epigenetics, and then I'll be wrapping this up pretty soon. And I know this, you guys, I know this one today isn't, it's me mostly sharing my personal experience, which, I mean, I do that anyways. But as I'm getting on here and I'm opening myself up and I'm letting myself be seen even more, I'm basically just going to come on here and I'm going to share what's in my heart. Some of that might be some really, really deep seated knowledge and information. Some's going to be a personal experience. It could be a collection of both. This is, I'm stepping back into this for myself. And that's also something that's been really, really important for this shift in identity, because I used to do this for everyone else. Everyone else. I used to get on here and make sure that my content was something that everyone could enjoy, that everyone would want to stick around and receive, but I'm not doing it for everyone anymore. I'm doing it for myself. This is something I need to do in order to show myself that I can continually do this, that I can do this more often, and that it's safe for my nervous system to get on here and share and be clear, concise, and all the things. Not necessarily that I have to be, but that I can be. So as I'm going back into this process of being and putting myself out there and being more vulnerable, I'm just getting on here and sharing. I know some of it isn't as clean cut as others, and that's okay. At this point, I'm simply just wanting to get in the habit of doing it. And so, therefore, as I'm getting in the habit of doing it, then I am giving myself permission to experience it with more fluidity. So, when we think about epigenetics, when we think about cancer, even, what is cancer? And this is something that's also been in my reality because I have a previous client that has been facing some health challenges. And I have a session with her. I believe we're going to do it on Sunday. And the concern that she's facing is possible cancerous tumors, or a possible cancerous tumor. And when we look at that, and one of the things I've been sharing with her is that, your body is collecting information and relaying information. And cancer, like I said, is not a disease. It's a symptom of a sick way of thinking, sinful way of thinking, believing, and acting. And when I have so much self-hate, when I have so much self-disgust, when I have such resentment or a need to control, my body starts, my cells, basically the sheathing or the protective mechanism that is keeping my cells safe, is breaking down. And it starts to break away the barrier that carries, we'll say, the life force that maintains a consistent state of balance and harmony, where all the cells can communicate properly in a healthy and balanced way. And so as they start breaking down, they're breaking down because if anger is not accepted, if it's not processed, if it's not moved, it's exceptionally heavy. Just like grief is exceptionally heavy. And it's a program that's operating. That's all cancer is. It's a program. And when we've gone through our entire lives rejecting others, anytime we have support or assistance or a different perspective that comes in, and we automatically reject it, and we want to be seen as knowing it all or having it all or being it all. And instead of just accepting what's coming in, we're like, oh, no, but wait, you didn't hear me. You didn't understand. Or no, you don't know me. You don't understand what I'm going through. You don't understand my suffering. When we constantly have to be in the role of the one that needs to be seen as suffering, or needs to be seen as right, or needs to be seen as perfect, or having it all, or knowing it all, then that program is a disease. And it's not allowing our body to carry the sustenance of love. And love is always, always, always there. So I wrote this down and I want to share this with you guys. The money, the body, the career, the house, the car, all of that, those are all easy. That's not where the work exists. The work exists in who you are every day, how you choose to show up, and the level of inner work you stand on that carries you into the timelines where every desire is already made manifest. I've been surrounding myself with videos of people that are filthy rich, and just looking and just loving watching them in this lifestyle of just things that I believe are beautiful, and just really enjoying watching people live their best life, right? These really powerful entrepreneurs. And I see so much hate in the comments, so much disgust. And they are speaking from that place of scarcity. They're acting as if these people don't work for that money. What they're not seeing is every failure that got those people to where they are. They're not seeing every sleepless night. They're not seeing every relationship that's taken a hit. They're not seeing the nights and the days that they're away from their children. They're not seeing the work that goes into getting to that place. And one thing I've also learned, and this is not where I never used to believe this way. I do now, but I didn't used to. I used to look at money or people that charged a lot of money, and I used to think that that was horrible. Like, spirituality and self-development. Like, I felt as if it was somehow wrong for people to charge for spiritual gifts or to charge for their business or to charge at that level, right? I would see them charging thousands of dollars and I would get offended by that. Like, how dare they? And I thought that if I charged a lot less for something a lot more powerful, then that meant that I was going to get more business. What I discovered is the type of people that I attracted into my business. I wasn't attracting people that were confident in the money. I was attracting people that were very scarce because I was being very scarce. I was acting from scarcity. So my clientele was directly mirroring back to me the level of belief system that I was embodying. And so, yes, I have money coming in, but I have money coming in from people that even at the lowest level that I was charging would still want a deal, would still want to get by on paying the least. And that is a mindset that I was in. Let me give you the most and you pay the least. It comes right back to me. Now, receiving more money because I know my worth does not mean that I am greedy. It means that I have learned that in order for me to meet myself where I am through those that show up as a reflection of me, then me asking for that amount is me attracting, is me aligning, is me directly reinforcing my self-worth. It is not me being greedy. And asking for what I offer is me offering my life experience. It's me offering what I have embodied. And it's me offering what I understand about what I've embodied. So people don't accumulate that type of wealth by doing nothing. They are doing everything. And they're emitting a very specific frequency. They've solved problems that buyers want access to. They have created a marketing dream. Someone is seeing that marketing, that data, and that's what they want. That's their dream. They have created something that people want access to. And people would not pay the money if they did not have a desire for it. So it's not that these people aren't giving back. It's that they already have given through their creation. And that's that was another major shift for me, is that just because people have millions and billions and trillions of dollars does not mean that they owe me or anyone else in the collective anything. Their creation that has accumulated that money is already giving to the collective, right? Elon Musk, I return to him all the time because a lot of people have a lot of hate for him. I don't know who he is as a person. I don't know him personally. I don't care about that. But what I can do is I can look to his achievements and I can see that he has that money because he is giving something to the collective all the time, irregardless of what people believe about him or think about him. That doesn't matter. But he has created things that we can use. He is putting his creative genius to use, and therefore he is making money because of that. So however people choose to use that money once they have received it, that's their karma, and it is not for us to decide. They have accumulated that, and their own system of beliefs is entangled in that. However, any of us can access and accumulate wealth. It is not hard. It is just simply about shifting the dynamic of how we perceive things. And if we're unwilling, again, I come back to this all the time, if you're unwilling to receive and learn, if you have an inability to learn from others, you're not learning. Others are your gateway back into yourself. And that's why I brought up Bruiser. And that's why I brought that forward and spoken into this today, because Bruiser is a gateway into myself. What I see that's happening with him is what I am needing to face within myself. It's not really what's happening to him or what's happening through him or what's happening. It's not coming at me. It's not happening to him or to me. I know we know this, but I'm just restating this. It's a reminder of what it is about this situation, about him, that I am unwilling to let go of. What have I not shifted in my perspective? What am I still choosing to see, believe, think, feel about this situation that I am not letting go of? And it always comes back to the reaction. It always comes back to the reaction. And once I let go of that, I'm not just, and I'm not just letting that experience live differently. I'm letting other experiences live through me. This was something a creator said, and I want to share this. This is what stuck out to me. This creator was mentioning how if you had the lifestyle that you wanted, if you had the body, if you had the career, if you had the millions, if you had the car, if you had the entire lifestyle that you wanted, would you be willing, not would you be able, would you be willing to show up every single day and put in the work that was required for you to maintain that version of yourself? Immediately, I knew the answer was no. Like if I was a multimillionaire, I know right now that I would probably feel more than likely overwhelmed by the amount of work that would require or ask of me. I know that if I had the body of my dreams, which I've had many times over, I know the amount of work that requires, because for the longest time, that was my area of focus. I was a personal trainer, and I was a nutritionist, and that was where I worked. I know how much time, energy, and effort goes into that. At the same time, I know now that it's more so about my belief system and my mindset, that I can literally envision the life that I want, the body that I want, and step into it from there. But then I have to maintain it. That's what I mean. Accessing it isn't the difficult part, it's maintaining it. But getting yourself from point A to point B means that you've got to let go of everything that you are emotionally attached to along the way. And if you're unwilling to even see the parts of yourself that are keeping you stuck, and I guarantee you, most people are not willing to see who they really are. They think they already know. I already know. I'm already doing that. I already got that figured out. I already know all about that. Yeah, I know that. I already know that. That's how everyone usually speaks. I already know that. Yeah, I'm good. I know that. I know all about that. I got it figured out. I'm already doing that. I'm already applying that. And immediately that response has just rejected every opportunity for learning, because you're not listening to learn, you're listening to know. And that's been something that's taught me the most, and I know I say it every time, but it's taught me the most, is I don't listen to know anymore. I listen to learn. Because I shut everyone out for like 2 years. I shut out books, I shut out podcasts, I shut out other creators, I shut out mentors, I shut everyone out because I thought I could do it the best. I thought I knew the most. I thought I knew the way to do things. So I ended up all alone. And I now see, at the same time, I'm very grateful for that. Because seeing the importance and the value of having those immersive experiences has been second to none. It's taught me so much. And it's also taught me the value of connection. And because sometimes I do think that I know, at least for myself, when I had all the connections available to me and I was doing all the things, I took them for granted. And then when I disconnected myself and I secluded myself, I started to see how much I really did value having those connections. So you guys, again, I know what I'm sharing here isn't new, but it's not new to me. But that doesn't mean that I haven't been facing the chaos, the resistance, the challenges. Again, like I said, I got super pissed off this morning. And I was like, you know what? I'm just done. I'm done with this version. I'm done with this version of Bruiser. I'm done with this version of myself. I am no longer giving attention to this version anymore. So whatever I got to do, whatever the next step is, I'm going to do it. I go live. I share my heart. I share openly. It is what it is. I'm doing it. Again, not for anyone else. I'm doing it for myself. When it comes to Bruiser, are things happening in the way I want them to right now? No. Do I feel every thing in my body wanting to fight that? Yes. That's okay. That's good. I'm aware of it. Now, I just don't give in to the urge. I don't give in to the compulsion. And that's also the habit of becoming someone new, is that when you wake up every single day, how you start your day, where you give your time, energy, and attention defines how you act out that day. I used to wake up every morning, check WhatsApp, check my email, I'm also working as a coach and in some neuropsychology from an app, right? So working in a form of therapy and coaching, and that's like a side hustle for me. So I'm constantly getting notifications and I'm jumping on and making sure other people don't need me, making sure someone hasn't reached out to me, constantly checking to make sure I'm not needed. And so that's always been my focus. My focus has always been going out. It's been going out to drugs. It's been going out to friends. It's been going out to other people. It's been going out to Bruiser. It's been going out to my parents. Like anytime I'm around them and what they're saying and what they're doing, I'm hyper vigilant. My attention is always going out. So the first rule of this new identity is to return inward every single chance I notice myself going out, going to my phone, going to the TV, going to any place other than my heart. I have to redirect myself, because if I don't, then I'm not learning the habit of being this version of me that's a multimillionaire, that's an entrepreneur, that's a business owner, that's acting out the healthy habits of the version of me that's already living that way. And that's, we talk about wanting to be healthy all the time. We talk about wanting to be rich. We talk about wanting to have these things, but how are you acting like a healthy person? Are you acting like an entrepreneur? Are you acting like a business owner? Are you acting like that's already here, or are you trying to obtain it? It's no different in self-development. It's no different in the self-development work. If you're acting as someone who does self-development, then you're not actually applying self-development. And there is a big difference there. I acted as if someone for 2 years before I realized I was acting. Self-development isn't something that you just talk about doing. It's something that you live. This morning, whenever I noticed what was happening with Bruiser, I'm not here to try to get a ton of viewers. I'm just sharing what's on my heart. But thank you for pointing that out. This morning when I noticed what was happening with Bruiser, I went through the process of applying everything that I knew to do. And when I reached that point of anger, when I reached that breaking point, I realized how much I'd made this mean. And any area of your life where you're carrying a lot of grief, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, you've made that mean something. You have created your life based on what you think certain things mean. And that's also another area that has to shift, is you have to make it mean something different. And that comes with the perspective shift. So the biggest thing that I'm learning to do now is to detach, to shift the meaning, and then to go do something else. So that's also something I would invite in. And it's not always so easy. It's not always so easy, but it's definitely something that, it's simple. It only feels like it's challenging when I would much rather be doing something else that is comfortable or familiar. So I appreciate each of you for being here, and I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, today I normally come with a set of notes, and I had a few things printed out today. The biggest thing for me was just doing this, was just getting on here and doing this. It's not as perfect. It's not as concise as I would say others have been or others will be. But I'm speaking openly and truthfully. And there's always something that can be gained from that. And there's always something that can be learned. So, as I move forward, if you guys do have an area that you would like for me to speak into, I will, once I have that area, that specific area of focus, I will make note of that. I will write everything down, and I will specify a lot more and bring that through. If you guys are interested in learning or moving through the application of the mini mind movies, I can do a recording on that as well. Just let me know. That has been something that's been really, really powerful and impactful for me. Even though the anger came up today, even though I experience the resistance, even though the chaos has been here, one of the ways I've been easing out of the reactivity is doing the mini mind movies. Every night before bed, every morning when I get up, I'm choosing to live in the movie of the reality that I desire. I'm choosing to immerse my senses in that and to live that out as if it's already happening. I do still get caught up in the reactivity, which pulls me back into the old identity. However, I am slowly but surely moving out of that. So, all right. Thank you guys for being here. I appreciate your presence. I appreciate your attention. If anybody has anything they would like to drop in terms of, like I said, in terms of a specific topic of discussion, I would be more than happy to bring that forward. And yeah, I'll focus it a little bit better next time. I appreciate you guys for being here and for tuning in. And I appreciate all the interaction. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you dropping in and reflecting on everything. And yeah, in terms of the viewers, anytime it gets over like 20-30 minutes, viewers are always going to drop off anyways. I could kind of feel that this one was going I don't want to say sideways, but I wasn't as focused today as I normally am. But I'm still going to let it be. I'm still going to let it live, because that's teaching my nervous system that it's safe for everything to not be perfect. And that is exceptionally important for me, especially because that's what my identity wants me to do. And that's what your comment is really showing. It's reflecting, like, am I going to choose to believe that I did something wrong just because I'm losing viewers? Or am I going to just choose to accept that, hey, that's okay. Maybe they had something else they had to do. Maybe they're going to tune in later. Maybe they're going to watch the whole replay. Maybe they aren't. Either way it goes, it doesn't matter. Because I want this to be something that I experience as a part of my process of learning, that I'm not doing it just for viewers, that I'm not just doing it just for that, because then it's not about me learning. It's not about my process. It's not about my path anymore. It's me showing up for everyone else. And that's just people pleasing. And that's the exact identity that I am shifting out of. So, okay. Thank you guys. Thank you for being here. I love you dearly. I appreciate you. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you next time. Adonai.